the United States wasn't built on freedom. It was built on blood, betrayal, and a lie nobody talks about. This isn't the history you learned in school. The polished, patriotic version? That's just the surface. The real story is messier, darker, and way more interesting. By the end of this, you'll see America in a way you never have before, not as some perfect nation, but as a place shaped by greed, luck, and the people who fought for change. From a few struggling colonies to a global superpower, how did America actually become America? Think about it. This land went from being ruled by kings to ruling the world in just a few hundred years. That doesn't just happen. It wasn't destiny. It wasn't some grand plan. It was wars, secrets, and insane twists of fate. And most of it? Way darker than you think. So let's start at the beginning, before it was even called America. Here's the first problem: America's origin story is a myth. The discovery of America? Columbus didn't even land on the mainland. He hit the Bahamas, called the people Indians because he thought he was in Asia, and then started enslaving them. The first Thanksgiving? Not what happened. The Pilgrims didn't invite the Native Americans out of kindness, they needed their help to survive, and even then, peace didn't last. The land of the free? Built by slaves. Forget the fairy tales. The real story is about survival, greed, and power, and it changes everything. Before Europeans showed up, millions of people lived here, advanced societies, trade networks, even cities bigger than London. The Cahokia civilization near modern-day St. Louis had pyramids, plazas, and tens of thousands of people. The Iroquois had a democratic government that inspired the U.S. Constitution. Then, disaster. Columbus wasn't an explorer, he was a failure. Spain sent him to find Asia. Instead, he stumbled into the Caribbean and started a genocide. Within decades, disease, war, and slavery wiped out entire cultures. The real first Americans? Vikings. Leif Erikson landed in Canada 500 years earlier, and left because it was too cold and hard to settle. Then came Jamestown. The settlers? They were unprepared, starving, and desperate. The winter of 1609 was so bad they ate rats, shoes, and even each other. Archaeologists found proof human bones with knife marks. The heroic pioneers resorted to cannibalism during the starving time. And why? Because they were more focused on finding gold than farming. Meanwhile, the Spanish were getting rich off silver in Mexico, the French were trading furs in Canada, and the Dutch were setting up shop in New York. England was late to the game, and it showed. Fast forward to the Revolution. The Boston Tea Party wasn't about taxes, it was about a corporate monopoly. The British East India Company was drowning in debt, so the British government gave them a sweet deal: sell tea directly to the colonies, no middlemen. That undercut colonial merchants, and they were furious. So they dressed as Mohawk warriors, boarded the ships, and dumped the tea into the harbor. Not exactly the noble protest we're taught. George Washington was basically a 1700s influencer. His image was carefully crafted to sell the revolution. He wasn't some flawless hero, he lost more battles than he won. But he knew how to inspire people. His retreat across the Delaware River? A desperate move. The famous painting of him standing heroically in the boat? Pure propaganda. The U.S. almost didn't win. Without French money, weapons, and troops, Washington's army would have collapsed. France didn't help out of kindness, they wanted to weaken Britain. Then came the Civil War. Lincoln didn't free most slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation only applied to Confederate states, not the Union. Why? Because Lincoln needed to keep slave-owning border states like Kentucky on his side. The real reason the South seceded? Money. Cotton was the oil of the 1800s, and slavery was the engine. Southern leaders admitted it, they'd rather die than give it up. The deadliest war in U.S. history. More Americans died than in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. And after all that bloodshed? Reconstruction failed. The South just replaced slavery with sharecropping and Jim Crow. Jump to the 20th century. The U.S. joined World War II late after Pearl Harbor, but war factories were already pumping out weapons. Why? Because selling to allies was big business. The Cold War? A nuclear game of chicken where one wrong move meant the end of the world. And the civil rights movement? Most textbooks leave out the FBI's war against MLK. They called him the most dangerous man in America and tried to blackmail him into suicide. Here's the truth: America wasn't destined to be great. It was luck, ruthless choices, and millions of forgotten people who built it. The slaves who worked the fields. The immigrants who built the railroads. The protesters who marched for change. The ones who fought not just in wars, but in streets, courts, and history books. This country's real story? It's not about perfect heroes. It's about us. From a stolen land to a global superpower in 250 years. That's insane. The US isn't just a country, it's a constant experiment. Messy, unfair, brutal, but always changing. The question is, what happens next? Want more untold history? Watch this next.